Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 5th day of November 2018. Well, when we last spoke, I believe it was the 1st of November, and we talked about the numerology of leaving. This is an 11 month, so that's the master number for illumination. 2018 is also an 11 year. So I've decided for this month, I will only consider the actual day as part of the numerology. So 5 indicates change. Change is on the horizon, maybe. We have an election tomorrow. Here in Oregon, we have vote by mail, which works really well. I don't know why people mess with the voting machines. I mean, the whole idea seemed kind of interesting, to be able just to go in and do that. But here in Oregon, you can just vote from the comfort of your chair, so at your house. So I don't know. We don't deal with the same kinds of issues other states deal with when they use those silly voting machines. So get rid of them. Use paper ballots. Vote from home. Mail them in or take them down to the main polling place. We can always do that. We can take them over to the county somewhere, some office over there, and the next town over, and we could do it there. Otherwise, we can just take it to the post office, which is what I did. And so we voted actually last week or week before, whenever they came, and then I think we got them on a Friday or a Saturday, and then we took them in on Monday. So it's just a much more simple way of doing things. The other thing I've been doing is I've been treating my husband's knee. He trashed it a long time ago, and I mean, in martial arts, we used to teach karate, and his knees are so calcified that when he would knee check people, it would be more of a strike. It would be, especially if he really slammed it up against your knee. And I know that it's likely how my outside meniscus got a little tear in it was probably in class, but likely from him. But the other problem I have with my knee is I fell and I tore the inside meniscus fairly significantly, well, halfway through. So it doesn't provide a whole lot of support for my knee. And so, but he had an issue last summer where he had, well, a couple years before that, he had his bursa sac in his knee got all filled with blood. And so he had that drained. And but then last summer, he was headed up the driveway to let someone out of our gate. We keep our gates locked. We have a almost 800-foot driveway. And I get this phone call, and it's from my husband. And he's like, "You need to come and get me." And I'm like, "Oh, no." And so he's up at the top of the property, sitting in a chair, because we got a couple chairs up there, and for when we irrigate and whatnot. And I had to get the lawn tractor and come up on it to get him, and then I had to get him crutches. But what I did was I did a comfrey poultice on it, and comfrey's a great herb. It's great for blood sugar. Most of the time you use the leaf in your teas, but it heals bones and heals connective tissue. So if you have a break, and you could do, or any kind of a issue skeletally, you could use a poultice. You could also drink, teas and all of that. And so in our herbal tea, I've got him drinking a little heavier on the comfrey, and on the I added more horsetail for silica. But basically, comfrey is really mucilaginous. If you were to decoct it or simmer it versus infusing or just pouring boiling water over it, you're going to find that it's going to get real slimy, and that's the mucilage in it. It's great for bee stings. You know how you can take and split an aloe leaf and you get all that gel stuff out of it? Well, it's kind of the same thing, really. And you can do the same thing with a comfrey leaf. You can split down the middle of it, down the stem part of it, and scrape out all the gooey, slimy stuff inside. And it's real cooling. And for me, now I'm a beekeeper. Well, actually, I'm a woman who's kept by bees. People don't, we're not beekeepers, they keep us. But anyway, if I get stung, it's not that I'm allergic, but the area gets, I mean, it takes forever to heal. But if I put that goop from the comfrey stem on it and maybe a little self heal, go great if I can grab some self heal flour or whatever. But if I take that comfrey goo and I put it all over the bee sting, I mean, within a day or two, it's gone. So I don't have near the problems that I have with healing if I use that stuff. So, but the nice part about this is that day up there when I had to go get him on the lawn tractor, when I got him back down here, I did a nice comfrey poultice, and he left it on for several hours. And you wrap it up in saran wrap, and so that the heat stays in and everything. And so he did that, and by the time we took it off, he had no pain. There was very little swelling, and he was able to get around on crutches. We did this a couple of times, and his knee healed. Now, yesterday, he was feeling bad, and he was having a hard time walking. In fact, we didn't do our walk because of it. And so I did another comfrey poultice, and he left it on, maybe hour and a half, 2 hours. And when he took it off, he was fine. So I've got I went ahead and I use it again, and because it got so dark, and so rich. So I just stuck it in the fridge, and I've got it simmering again, and I put some fresh comfrey leaf in it because I've still got some growing out there, even though it's, there's the big patch is basically dead for the year, but it got frosted. But there's some others that are a little in some more protected spots, and I was able to get that. And so I've got that mixture simmering again, and I'll do another round on him today. But I have to tell you, had we not done that, he might need to go to the doctor. He might need to go get an X-ray. They're not going to do anything for him, but still, at least now, he noticed a little bit of a twinge last night, late, like maybe 10, 11 o'clock. And then he noticed a little bit of a twinge this morning, but we're going to hit it again. And I also put some on my knee, and it felt a whole lot better. So I really think that whether it's a nervous system issue, comfrey's real healing that way too. It almost like it just comforts you and coats you in this protective layer, and it allows for healing to take place. So great plant. Don't ever till it. If you have some growing, don't till it. I'll till it. It'll get rid of it. You will have comfrey for life. So anyhow, let's count 13 and see what we have for today. So we have the Two of Cups. We were pulling cups and pentacles last week. That was interesting. But here we have, let's get it out of the glare. Here we have a man and a woman. You have, they're exchanging 2 cups. Well, they're holding 2 cups, and others, it looks like they're exchanging them in other decks. Here you have the caduceus above with the winged lion's head. So we have strength, we have healing, the healing of polarity, the balance of polarity. Cups is about our emotions, reflects our emotional presence in the world. But the thing about twos are balance. And in this day of change, because we're in a 5-day, so maybe what we're going to start to see or experience, or maybe this is telling us to consider the idea of coming into balance, balancing the polarity within, or balancing with others as well. Right now, and I've said this before, and I kind of apologize for putting it this way because it kind of beats up on men, but unfortunately we live in a patriarchal world, so it is what it is. But we're experiencing what's called toxic masculinity, too much Mars energy. We're not in an even keel, and so with one another, and so you have a lot of push energy. that is pushing, 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 and those of us that are on the receptive side of things are sitting back going, what on earth is going on? Because there's a lot of authority. You see it when you see this happen, say in a family, you may have one individual that's very authoritarian and everyone else just sort of cowers. I'm doing my honey and lemon cleanse. But we can struggle with the same. There's another, and I've talked about this before, there's another system besides astrology called human design. It was created by Rune, who has since passed, and he passed a few years ago, not all that long ago, but a little while ago. But he came up with this notion that uses planets, the influence of planets, and he came up, and also the I Ching, and kind of brought it together in the mechanics of who we are. To me, I like it because it seems to be more about energy flow than anything else. And as an empath and a witch, I like that. I conceive of things that way in terms of energy flow anyway. So it's a really interesting system, But one of the things it does is it divides people into 5 categories or personality types. And one of them is a manifester, one of them is a generator. They comprise the bulk of the planet, right? And then you have manifesting generators and then projectors and reflectors, and they're the less common. It's mostly generators are the biggest group. Well, I'm a generator, and a generator has the type of aura that's receptive, and so it welcomes, right? And it's not a push aura. And my husband, on the other hand, is a manifester. So he has an aura that pushes. And so if those things are off in a relationship, you can have someone who's too pushy and someone who doesn't stand up. Or if, as Ra talks about, you live your not self, then the person who is supposed to be a receptive aura then pushes when they shouldn't. And the person who is supposed to have a push aura is receptive and doesn't push when they should. So it's about finding that, beginning with who you are, number one, and then from there keeping that balance and living your true nature, basically. Letting the flow take you instead of trying to direct it so much, unless you're the manifester who's supposed to be directing things. Everyone else is just supposed to be, taking care of business and doing what they're asked to do. And, generators are supposed to wait to respond. Well, that's a tough one for me. I like to initiate. Well, that's living my not self. And my husband, if he doesn't initiate, then he's living his not self. So it works better if he says, let's do this. And I say, okay, or no, I don't want to do that. But you see, I waited to respond. See, and it works out much better. The dialogue can take place. Whereas if I initiate, then maybe it doesn't work out so well. But the whole thing here about the Two of Cups is we understand that we're coming together with others and with self in a balanced and harmonious and loving way. Right now, it doesn't feel like that, in our country, does it? It feels more like, we're constantly at odds with each other. And maybe that's something that we need to see, maybe because we've come so far in this direction that we need to have something really intense to say, hey, wake up. A lot of us have woken up and have realized that this is just not the best way to interact with others, but some haven't. Some are still in that waking up process to a better way of interacting with one another. So let's see what the rune has to say though today, and see if it aligns with balance and change. Well, it does. Hagalaz. Hagalaz is a Norn rune. It is a witch rune. It is, let's see, I believe it's the 9th rune of the Elder Futhark. Oh, what did I do with my little cheat sheet there? It's the 9th rune of the Elder Futhark. It represents the idea behind Hagalaz is it's destruction within a fixed framework. Okay. That's what makes it the witch rune. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring balance to a situation. Now, you can, as a witch, do other things. You can start messing around with people's free will. I choose not to do that, though. I just say here is the opportunity for balance and awakening and vision. It's up to you to grab onto that. Okay. I'm giving you the groundwork here. I'm taking away everything else that you need to be concerned about and just resonate in this balanced energy and see what happens, see what your choices then become. Because odds are when you do that, that's basically aligning in source presence. When you do that, things tend to change for you. See, so that's what it means about aligning in uh, uh, destruction within a fixed framework. Hagalaz is also known as the as hail, or it's the Norn rune of the past of Erd, and also represents Hela. Um, we got to see her in Thor Ragnarok, didn't we? Kate Blanchett was Hela. Well, she represents Hela, or Hagalaz is representative of Hela. You saw how destructive her character was in that movie. Well, we are. In her case, though, she was a little ill-dignified, wasn't she? But can help us to banish bad habits. It can help us to, being the ninth rune, there's a sense of completion about it, or finality. But being a water rune, it really does. Cups is a water element, and so it's a water suit, and so we're aligning that way. And so maybe we are on the precipice for some change. We can't go much further this way. Listen, it does something to the psyche, okay, to put little kids in cages and to allow a 2-year-old to stand by herself in front of a judge, an immigration judge, by herself. How does she do that? What kind of damage are we doing with these draconian, and I use that word intentionally, draconian. And those of you who know what I'm talking about, you better figure it out. If you're on the wrong side of this, you don't want to be. We need to come back together before that's not possible. And that isn't the world we want. We want a world that builds together, okay? We want to be able to come together in harmony and let go of all of this stuff that we've told ourselves about one another. This notion of seeing the other instead of the other side of self, or a brother or a sister or family. Yeah, I don't know that person over there, but that other person is another aspect of me. If all that is all of this, if all that is, or the creator or God, whatever you choose to call all that is, breathed forth life, and we are resting in the breath of that life, of that creator, waiting to be drawn back. You see, that's what creation is. We're resting in the breath of the great mother, okay? And that's what the universe is. That's all that we're doing. We're exploring on behalf of the great mother, of all that is. I tend to see all that is as feminine, but it's not. You can see it as masculine if it makes you more comfortable. You can do that. But unfortunately, what's happened is that we've given away our own power, our own source energy, to some other type of entity that does not have our best interests at heart, that usurps our own sovereignty, our own power, our own sense of self-control. We are the creator personified into form. We ought to be able to come together in a unified fashion, respecting individual differences and cultural differences. You don't have a garden with one thing. We see what happens when bees are put to monocropping. It kills the bees. They don't have enough diversity. The success of life is about diversity. It isn't about clinging to your own group that looks like yourself. The idea is to become part of the rest of it and learn about all of it and experience all of it. So the idea of coming together in joy and love and harmony has to be the goal. Staying at odds with one another, coming up with all these reasons to justify our separation. Because here's the thing, everything happens at once. When the Great Mother breathed out life, all possibilities happened at once. And now all we're doing is choosing them. All right? Choosing them to create what our own personal world looks like. That's all we're doing here. All of these possibilities, the good, the bad, the indifferent, doesn't matter what it is. All of those possibilities and probabilities were created when the Great Mother breathed out life. And so this moment of rest is where we're making these choices. Well, you know, all choices are fine to do, but they all have consequences. Okay, so if you're choosing something that's very self-oriented, you know, Law of One talks about the choice between service to self and service to others. If you're choosing service to self sorts of things, well, then you might experience, you know, if you turn that into authoritarianism, well, you might just win the day, boy. But at the end of the day, what have you really won? You might have won some things, but you've caused so much destruction in your wake that, you know, what good is it? But trust me, folks like that, you know, unless they end up in prison, well, you know, they find all kinds of joy in the oppression of other people. And that's what we're experiencing now. We're having a front door or a front, whatever, you know, a front row seat. That's what I'm trying to say. We're having a front row seat to this unfold before our very eyes. It's not that you necessarily hand the keys to the candy cupboard to the kids. We all got to have a way of figuring all this out together and making sure we have enough for everyone. So no, you don't want to keep an imbalance going. You want to do things, though, that are compassionate and help uplift the world into something more, into something greater, into something better. But instead, what we have, we got a few people wanting to take, right? And they've convinced another group of people that the rest of us are the enemy. Well, that's ridiculous. Evidently, we need to see it. Well, watch it, look at it, see it for what it is. It's not going to work. And then cast your vote tomorrow. If you haven't already, cast it accordingly. Cast it in the way that brings unity and peace and dignity and self-respect back to the conversation. Because that's what we need to do, is have a conversation. Not endless rallies where they're chanting things that make no sense, that aren't even based in reality. That's the sad part. They're being sold a bill of goods. They're being lied to, and they don't even know it. So, I don't know. I like that Hagalaz came today because, you know, as the witch rune, we're about change and bringing things back to balance. When we have convinced ourselves that something is a certain way, say we're angry at somebody, for example, but say whatever it is that we think we're angry about, whatever that was, that moment in time, it happened 10 years ago. If we aren't going to resolve it, okay, and we hang on to whatever little perceived hurt. Now, what happens if you were wrong in that perception? What if you misperceived that moment and you've spent the last 10 years being angry at somebody for something that actually didn't happen? What then? You've deprived yourself of having time with this other person that you could have had. You could have been happy with this person, but instead you're angry at them for something that certainly is not happening now in the moment. All there is the present moment. So if it's not happening in this moment, maybe it shouldn't be happening at all. I don't know. Something to think about as we go vote tomorrow. Do we want to vote for things that preserve the kind of damaged experience that we're having now? Because that's what it is. It's a damaged and damaging experience. When you've got 11 people at a synagogue die for these nationalistic ideas, these ideas of separation, it's a fantasy. It's not sustainable. We can't live in a world like that. It's been proven over and over throughout humanity's history that this doesn't work. We need an age of enlightenment again. We've had them before, and it all just goes to hell in a handbasket, doesn't it? Well, we have to stop doing that. We have to focus on making things truly better. And I'm sorry, but it isn't the way it's going. So, something to think about. And in any event, thanks so much for stopping by. Go check out my blog, Stepping Aside, at imsteppingaside.com. I went ahead and I put the geomancy reading for the month up, as well as the tarot reading for the month. So that's there if you want to check that out. I'd love you to do that. There's a little subscribe button down here in YouTube that you could subscribe to my video if you like and come back again. If you've been here before, it's nice to see you. Welcome back. And if it's your first time, I'm so glad you're here. So I do this typically 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. And sometimes things get in the way of it, but I try to do them at least 4 days a week. So, and once in a while, I put other things up too. So in any event, come back. Thank you so much for coming. Be kind to yourself, be kind to other people, and blessed be. And vote.